In Bridgewater, New Jersey, at any moment, Republican nominee Jack Ciattarelli will deliver his vote in the pivotal New Jersey's governor's race because the early voting started October 25th. It goes through Sunday, so he's going to get out the early vote. We're less than a week away from Election Day and early voting in place. New Jersey may be the most consequential race this year as it could send a shockwave across the country. Marking a new standard for Republicans in bellwether states, Jack Ciattarelli is making his final pitch to flip Jersey red. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, and joining us today, Carly Shimkus, co-host of Fox and Friends First, and Rosanna Scotto, Fox 5 New York anchor and host of The Underground Economy on Fox Nation. Marie Harp, Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson under President Obama. And Charles Payne, host of Making Money on Fox Business. Well, last night, Sean Hannity hosted a town hall event. He invited me to be there. I was. It was in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and Jack Ciattarelli was in the spotlight. The two were focused on the most critical topics affecting New Jersey when we started, as well as the proposed policies that Ciattarelli would implement across the state. Here's a bit of what he says he would do. So this will start with sanctuary cities in his state.
Let me tell you how we're going to provide for law and order here in New Jersey. Executive order number 1 on day 1. No town in this state will be a sanctuary city and will not be a sanctuary state. I've said from the very beginning, that policy, here's the good news. Many of the things that Murphy has done are by executive order. They weren't codified by the legislature, which means I can reverse them on day 1. Having sanctuary cities and us being a sanctuary state encourages illegal immigration, and it handcuffs our local police in certain ways. We're not doing that. I'm going to reverse that on day 1.
And then the topic moved to law and order.
The other thing we're going to do is get rid of cashless bail. Cashless bail has created a professional criminal who's learned how to game the system. Talk to your local cops, and they'll tell you about this dynamic known as arrest, release, repeat. It's demoralizing for cops.
And then we got into the campaign from 2021, and I asked him the difference between then and now.
I'd like to ask Jack, if I may, where are we right now with not just the tax issue, but how different the landscape is from the last time you ran against a Democrat?
You know, I always say this. What's different this time around, I mean, I'm talking about the same issues I did back in 21. They were percolating then. They're at a complete boil now because people are pissed over the affordability crisis, the public safety crisis, the public education crisis. What's different is no pandemic this time around. It wasn't easy running for governor when there's a shelter-in-place order. Yeah. Number 2, I'm not running against an incumbent. Number 3, there's a lot less in difference this time around. The closeness of my race and how well the president ran here, you know, from 20 to 24, the president improved by more than 10 points in New Jersey. That was the greatest improvement of the 50 states. Now, no, he didn't win New Jersey, but that improvement means there's 300,000 more people today that are favorable to the president than back in 2020.
Charles, we talked about the fact that the last 24 years have included Democrats in the governorship of New Jersey, 16 out of those. So this would be a monumental shift politically and set a standard of you can flip blue to red and follow this. What do you make of it? Because you, New Jersey, like yeah, I know,
yeah.
You're right. You're my neighbor.
It's exciting, and you know, and you feel like the momentum is there. It's just whether we could get there in time. But the momentum is there. But why is the momentum there? And he lists off all the reasons, and I think they're all interconnected. And that's the one thing I don't, when you have a lot of folks coming to a state, a lot of low-skilled workers, they end up getting jobs that were formerly good-paying jobs that push out the natives. This is something we see nationwide, but we see it a lot in New Jersey. If you go back to the housing crisis, one of the bad things that happened there is because housing was down so long, it's one of those skills that an uncle would teach a nephew, a father would teach a son. And there was a big gap there. And if you look in New Jersey, where I live, every time a house is sold, especially if it's older, they knock it down, they build a new one. As I drive by, I see very few Americans working on that, Native Americans working on that, on those projects, good-paying jobs. All of it's connected. All of it is connected. And we have to find a way to sew it all back together.
So it's interesting. He put it a little different way last night, Ciattarelli. But what he was talking about is we've lost that passed down home ownership, so you keep it in a family. He wants to do a lease to own. He has a lot of ideas about affordability in New Jersey because we've lost a lot of people leaving the state. Our taxes are ridiculous.
Property taxes are
Yeah, he talked a
sky
lot about that,
high,
too.
and estate taxes too, are very, very high in New Jersey. I mean, Jack Ciattarelli has definitely hit on a nerve in New Jersey, and he's come out swinging. I don't know if you've seen his commercials, but they are hard hitting after Mikey Sherrill, and it's gone after like some basic things like, what would be the first thing she would do when she got into office? And she literally sat in an interview and couldn't think about the first thing that was on her agenda. And then a lot of people started to wonder about another idea that he floated out there. Why didn't she walk in her graduation ceremony at the U.S. Naval Academy? That was also kind of clouded. Listen, everybody's looking at it. Jack Ciattarelli almost did it the last time. It looks like he's coming closer this time. Can he turn a deep blue state red?
Yeah, he
Everybody's
came within
waiting.
3 points of Phil Murphy. Phil Murphy is term limited, so that's why he says, I don't have an incumbent, I just have Mikey Sherrill to run against. You know, I've often heard you say it, Marie, it comes down to the candidate. She's made some missteps, and so you really have a lot of expertise in this. Take a look at this race.
So it's interesting. New Jersey is not a deep blue state. I mean, Chris Christie was the governor. So let's remember that it
24 years,
does go back and forth.
16 were Democrats.
But a lot of those were Republicans, too. And we
16 out
saw
of 24
Jack
years,
Ciattarelli, last
Democrats.
time he ran, didn't lose by that much. So, and we've seen New Jersey move increasingly red over the last few cycles. I think Mikey Sherrill is still going to win. But to your point, Harris, she is a fantastic public servant, a veteran. I've worked with her and her team for a long time. But she hasn't run a perfect campaign. I don't think she's one of these like shock and awe candidates where you go out and you wow people. She's not a Mom Donnie, right? I mean, policy-wise, but certainly not politically either. But I think she will still win. The other thing that's interesting is the Trump team really focused on this race. They have forgotten about Virginia. Abigail Spanberger is going to win on Tuesday. Trump hasn't even endorsed Winsome Earl-Sears officially. They know that Virginia has sort of moved on. Obviously, the New York mayor's race. They've really focused on this and put the muscle
Trump
of the
has a home in New Jersey, so that's part of
right,
it.
but he also has one in Virginia, actually. But they have really put the muscle of the Trump team and the Republican coalition behind Jack Ciattarelli. And I think you see some of that bearing out in the tightening polls, even though I think she'll still win.
Yeah, well, you know, and listening, Harris, to your conversation with Jack Ciattarelli, and I thought it was really interesting what he had to say. Another reason why, another difference between last time he ran in 2021 and now is that nobody thought he could win in 2021. The Real Clear Politics average had incumbent Phil Murphy up by 8 points going into Election Day, and he ended up losing Jack Ciattarelli by just 2 or 3. So if registered voters, Republican voters, had turned out, he would have won, but a lot of them stayed home because they thought there was no chance.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that? And I want to get your view on it, Carly. He talked with me last night about the early vote, and he said we've had it. Like the people are coming out now. He said, but I'm not trying to talk anybody out of voting on Election Day, yet he's going to early vote today.
Right. Well, yes, and he is probably going to do that because Mikey Sherrill is ahead in early in-person voting and mail-in ballots. But there are some other numbers that are really interesting that are working in favor of Jack Ciattarelli, and it's that the GOP since last election in New Jersey has gained 167,000 voters, and Democrats have lost 47,000. And a lot of that does have to do with the issues of affordability. Just anecdotal evidence here, but my parents live in New Jersey. I grew up there. Their energy bill doubled over the past year from about $200 a month to $400. I mean, that's real money impacting real people under a Democrat governor. So the fact that he isn't running against the incumbent doesn't really matter. He's still running against a Democrat, and those policies are going to potentially come back to bite Mikey Sherrill.
Well, along with those energy costs, which you were saying, turns out to be true. I mean, we know that on day one, they both have plans for that. He articulated 3 or 4 steps last night. She has yet to do it, not in one, but many.
You know what? She just seems so stumped, you know, during that one interview. And he plays that. I mean, he's got a lot of money for commercials. He plays that interview all the
they both have a
time.
lot of money.
And every time I look at it, I see something else. I'm like, she's really struggling to come up with an answer.
Yeah. Last quick thought.
So the last governor, the incumbent, came in and immediately shut down 5 power plants, including a nuclear power plant.
That's right.
That's the most important thing we need in this country right now to stay the preeminent nation in the world. The AI data center race is #1. It's a modern-day nuclear weapons race. It's without a doubt. And so they've governed based on policies and ideology and not for the people and not with foresight to the future. And if New Jerseyans want to be part of the future, they should make a change, in my mind.
Yeah, everybody's watching this, and Virginia, you mentioned it, Marie, as bellwether states for the midterm elections and how either party will do.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.